Funny that. This particular panel, it's almost a difficult one to do because this one is not as fun as the others. Because this is a concept that furries like to think about. Boy, oh boy, we have our dreams. We try to bring them to life the best we can in these rooms, over this weekend, in this building. But they remain dreams. All we can do is try to embody them. But we can't make them come true. What if we could? And that's the concept of the real world furry. Science is progressing at a breakneck pace, at least it was, but I'm not going to say anything else on that matter. Whether you like it or not, science continues to progress. And I gave up long ago trying to say it will be X number of years before such a thing can happen, because usually the next day I open up a journal article, they say, "Hi!" Oh, sucks to be me, doesn't it? We do not fully understand the human genome, or anybody's genome for that matter. However, we do stand at the edge of the precipice. We are standing at the rim of the abyss of knowing how to tailor the genomic sequence to make it do what we want. Now we run into a problem. Should. Science often runs up to that question. Just because we can, does that mean we should? If you want, you can go no further in answering that question than taking in a cute little Saturday night movie called The Human Centipede. Someone's seen it, I just heard somebody gag. Sorry. Love my morning coffee. Coffee, it's a coffee cup, right? That's what goes into a coffee cup, it's coffee. In a coffee cup, that's what goes into a coffee cup, shut up. It's 11 o'clock. So where am I going with all this blither blather? Essentially, I'm trying to fill an hour because my position on this is really very, very brief. The answer is no. We can toy with the genome. Should we? No. Should we create furries? Should we create the human-animal hybrid? Absolutely not. It is a monstrous idea. It is evil, and as long as there is breath in my body, I will fight against that kind of research. Oh, but why? Why? Oh, Uncle Kage, you're a furry. Furries are cute and furries are fluffy, and it would be great. There's this little thing, it's a little passé now, but old guys like me who, kind of stick to tradition, kind of cling to this, it's called ethics. And everything that science does has a consequence. We want it to have a good consequence. As a matter of fact, most of the time there's going to be a side effect, particularly in medicine. And it becomes a matter of weighing the risk. This brand new concoction I've come up with will cure 150,000 people, but it will kill 200. That is a real conundrum that research scientists face. Okay, what do I do? It's just, that's the statistics.
Thank you.
Try saying that on a Saturday morning when you've got lots of coffee in your coffee cup. Every drug does have a side effect, and there are people who will be sensitive to it. There will be people who are hypersensitive to it. There are people who will have a drug interaction that you did not predict. Hell, the measles vaccine, when it first came out, had some toxic side effects. The polio vaccine, when it came out, killed several hundred children.
Oh my God.
But we got rid of polio. And it's that balancing act. Polio, and you're all kids, most of you are kids out there. You've never seen somebody with polio. You have never seen what polio does to a person. It is one of the most horrific fates that can befall a human being. Crippled, paralyzed, trapped for the rest of your life in an iron tube that breathes for you. It's not fun. We can cure it, but in doing so, we're going to kill several hundred children. Sometimes science is very, very difficult. Now, I want you all to keep that in mind. We're going to make a furry creature, yay! Why? Question number one, why? Why do you want to have this creature produced? Do you want a pet? Do you want a slave species? Do you want, heaven forbid, a sex toy? What is it you are after? What is the end product? Yes! Answer carefully.
I am answering carefully here. And while I would say this is more of a stepping stone than the actual furry creature, and this is actually something you can probably see the result of within 5 to 10 years, there's just been recently a pig that has human organs inside of it. So if we were to create a furry, possibly one of the possibilities is that the reason we might make a furry is that it more mimics the human organs because it is more humanoid rather than just being in spheroform where it, maybe like by being constantly on one side, a liver might not function as well as it does standing up. So that is one possibility, though I will admit organ harvesting isn't the best reason.
You're talking about the creation of a chimera which will be sacrificed at some point. Then again, barnyard animals suffer that fate anyway, no matter what they are. But what are you going to do when you create something that you then have to terminate while it's begging you to spare its life? Keep that in mind. When we're talking about furries, we're talking about the creation of intelligent human-animal hybrids, like this one that just walked in. Okay, maybe not so intelligent, but and she turns around and I say, "Durr!" Thank you, sit down. In fact, strangely enough, just at breakfast this morning, I was sitting down with a very, very charming gentleman who invited me to join him at table, and we were discussing a wonderful old novella written published in 1812, written by a very, very nice lady named Mary Shelley. Well, it was Mary Bryce, and she married Shelley for whatever reason. He was a jerk, but she wrote this wonderful little story, little horror story called Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus. And the entire point of that story was that science will create something that will resent its creation. It sounds trite, and for 200 years it was. But it is not so trite anymore. It is now becoming a rather relevant precaution. There is a story, and a lot of you have these, whatever, your smarty phones in your pocket here. You can probably look this up. Did I bore you? Or you got pee? We'll go with pee. Okay. Let me know if everything comes out okay. Anyway.
Science.
There's a story online written by, I'm pretty sure it was Will Sanborn. When you get to be my age, you start forgetting little details like, the names of your favorite authors, where you put your keys. He wrote a story called More Than Just a Failure. All I have to do is send you to the Googles to look up that story and bid you read it, and you will not support the creation of a human-animal chimera, a furry, as we want to call it. There's another truism about science that non-scientists have a tendency either not to know or not to think about. Generally, all you guys see is the end product. You don't see the 10,000 failed experiments, you are going to try to create a creature out of nothing. You're going to produce this creature that has intellect, that has feelings, that has a nervous system. How do you handle those first 10,000 failures? And as I say, when you produce one that's not going to be viable but is still able to plead with you to save its life, try putting yourself in that situation. You think it's hard to produce a drug product that might kill 300 people but will save 150,000? That's nothing compared to what I just described. Let's say you do get the end product. Let's say you manage on the very, very first time to get it right. That doesn't happen. I can tell you that from experience. There's an old adage in chemistry: if it works the first time, you did something wrong. We create this creature. It's perfect. It's marvelous. It's not human. You like it. It's attractive to you. But outside those windows, we have people with very, very different views. Anybody have Catholics in their family? Mm-hmm. We live in a society where we cannot tolerate the presence of another person whose skin is slightly darker than ours, or lighter, or a different hue. We can't tolerate a person who speaks differently from us. How are you going to introduce this entirely new species into society? Are you going to expect the world just to embrace it? What have you done? You have just created something with the intellect to know that it is a monster. That itself is monstrous. And, as I stated in the beginning, that is why I will fight against it. There may come a day, I'm speaking from the standpoint of early 21st century science. Maybe the day will come when we can get it right the first time. Maybe the day will come when it doesn't matter what color that guy's skin is, or what accent this guy has, or what the name of this man's church is. Maybe that won't matter. I think we call that Star Trek. And I will be dead and dust before that happens, I'm sorry to say. Am I wrong? Maybe. God, I hope so. But I am enough of a realist not to count on it. Now, I'm not a betting man. Any questions to this point? Like I said, this is not a happy, fun, bouncy panel. This is a jolt of reality. And it's sorrowful because, yeah, it would be so nice. It would be nice. But, yeah, there are far too many negatives that outweigh the positives. Yes?
One avenue necessarily might not be creating an entirely new creature, but maybe as prosthetics become more and more advanced, it could be to the point where you could get follicles and grow fur instead of hair, and you could get ears that are sensitive to your neurology. So not necessarily creating an entirely new species as to modifying an existing person.
Here is where I wish I had a projector. You guys got the googlies on your smarty phones here. Damn kids. I'm going to put in 2 words into the googlies. Stalking cat. Look at the very, very first picture that comes up. You guys in the front row can see. Ooh. Stalking cat, Dennis Kavner. I should say the late Dennis Kavner. He has passed away. He was a good friend of mine, and I was dreadfully upset. This is a man who wanted so much to emulate the tigers that he admired that he turned himself into one after a fashion. He had stripes tattooed across his entire body. Don't ask how I know that. He had injections into his face to create the semblance of a muzzle. He had his lip cleft to create a feline feature. He had his teeth altered. He had prosthetic pegs put into his face so that he could have whiskers. They were vinyl, but yes, Stalking Cat, he was a phenomenon.
Stalking cat.
Stalking Cat. Now, how could I look down upon a man who wanted something so much that he was willing to go through that? To go through what? Here's a little secret about Stalking Cat, if you guys never knew. He could not find a surgeon that was willing to make these alterations, because in the field of medicine, this is considered mutilation, and a surgeon will not do it. This was all done by a body modification artist, essentially a piercing artist, who, because this person was not a physician, was not able to use anesthesia. Dennis had this all done without the benefit of anesthesia. If he wanted it that badly, then God bless his heart. I was glad he got it. However, as lovable a man as he was, when this lovable face walked in for a job interview, I'm just going to leave that right there. Pretty much, once he had this done, for the rest of his life, all he's ever going to be is a sideshow freak. You know, we can do this to ourselves, but do you want to? Now, I am a 21st century kind of guy. You know, I'm a Yankee liberal. I'm a furry, for God's sake. Very, very little bothers me. But when I'm interviewing somebody for a position, especially a customer-facing position, this is going to be the person who's going to go out to the customers and introduce them to the company. When a guy comes in with, you know, rings in his eyeballs and a bone through his nose, is that necessarily, I'll put him in the lab, he's probably brilliant. But is that necessarily what I want to show to the customers first? You see where I'm going. If you want to do it, great, but how many times it's been said to humanity, be careful what you wish for, because you may just get it. Like I said, the guy next to me whose skin is a little bit darker, in this building, hardly anybody would notice. But if I were to walk down a dark street and a little old lady came the other direction, she might look at me and smile. If that little old lady saw him, she might not. Why? Because unfortunately, that's how society has wired us. That would be another question for the sociologist. I imagine it's society. I don't know if that's hardwired or not, and my God, I hope it's not. I really hope it's not. I'd like to believe we can get past that. I think however we can, because I grew up outside Philadelphia. You know, I used to play with black kids. You'll please pardon the expression. I'm a product of the 60s. And I didn't have a problem with them. They didn't have a problem with me. However, in the summertime, we would go down and spend summers in Alabama, outside Montgomery. As I said, I'm a product of the 60s. Can you imagine how fucked up a kid is going to wind up with that kind of dichotomy? Look what happened to it.
He's on a bunch of animal people.
Mm-hmm. Why? That's a good question. Why? Maybe because having seen the worst behavior of my species, I prefer the company of others. But that's a different topic for a different day. By the way, there's nobody under 18 in here.
No.
Just checking, sorry. I'm supposed to ask that at the beginning. I tend to ask it after the... Sorry. I blame the coffee. It's very good coffee. I recommend it.
Did you buy it? Or did you have it from the...
Oh, this,
metal
this cup was given to me by the lady at Starbucks.
Did you happen to notice that the coffee had a cork in it?
I'm sorry?
Did you happen to notice that the coffee had a cork in it?
I mentioned Stalking Cat. Yeah, I mentioned it. Oh, I love you, Dennis. I miss you. He was the salty there, the most gentle, kind-hearted soul you could ever encounter, and taken far too early. Yes, another question.
And I don't mean to be dominating conversation here.
Well, it's okay. I mean, furries understand dominance. Go ahead.
But I will say that choosing to alter your body and then potentially suffering social consequences is nothing compared to the situation that you described, where you create something and it isn't viable, in your words, and then having to deal with that.
Because then the agent of responsibility is not on the burden of the person receiving it. It's someone else is putting it on you.
You are correct, and perhaps I'm comparing apples and pomegranates here, although they are related somewhat at the genetic level. But you are correct. If you choose to do it, just like with Stalking Cat, okay. But you have to be prepared to face the social consequences. You know, you'll be very popular in this building. You probably will not be that popular in the mall. That's just how it is. Again, someday we'll get past that. I always liked in Star Trek how, you know, the weirdo alien species would come by. Nobody would even bat an eyelid. You know, it's just, here comes this, you know, like a Horta in a Star Trek costume. People are like, hey, Bob. And something that Star Trek taught me throughout the entire universe, all those millions of galaxies, every alien species is basically a human being with a different forehead.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that's an aside. I am a writer when I'm not being a, you know, crackpot scientist. I write shit, and I write shit. I write stories. I write furry stories. And I often will give writing panels, and I ask people, because it's kind of the same idea. If you're going to write a furry story, you need to have a reason for a furry to exist. Now, look at every single story that's ever been written with anthropomorphics. You know, the backstory, these were created. Why? A military weapon, the slave race. You know, that's pretty much the two things. You can say, okay, we're going to create this species as a spacefaring race. We're going to tailor it to be able to withstand the rigors of space. I'm really sorry to tell you, a cheetah is no more designed to live in outer space than we are. And there was a long discussion some 25 years ago. This went on for months, as to what an astronaut suit for a furry would look like. Specifically, how would you deal with the tail? I still lie awake at night thinking about that. There was only one single story that I ever read that I thought, okay, this is a proper reason to create a furry. One could argue it's still in the slave species category, but in this particular instance, I was able to overlook it. I think it was also Will Sanborn. Somebody must correct me on these. As I said, I'm getting old. Who wrote a story called Wings? I have a box of tissues, by the way, if you want to read that one. And in that, we had created a human canine chimera for the purpose of serving as a companion guide for handicapped humans. A seeing eye dog that can count your money out for you, can change the channel for you to the one you want, can walk with you and tell you, hey, hang on, the light is red. That's cool. On the other hand, you can pay a high school student to do that. I'm sorry, you can't. You don't got to create a dog. There's no back. Hi! Oh, hi.
Speaking as not a high school student, but someone who was, speaking as a former high school student, I don't think if high school students would take that job because they think that they're too important for that job.
You could find somebody.
That is 2017. In my day, goddamn kids, you don't know how good you got it. We had to stand up to change the channel. We only had 8 of them. And there was nothing on then either.
We still had to push the lawnmower.
And did yours have a gas motor, or did it go?
Oh, I had one of those.
Push more.
Yeah. See, you should never go to a gray muzzle panel if you're not a gray muzzle, because all we do is sit around and bitch about you.
That's right.
Do they have one of those?
Damn
here?
millennials.
I would love to go to that.
Do they? Did they? I don't know.
I didn't see one, but that sounds like fun.
They have a 18 plus one, like last
That's
night.
not exactly the same
No,
thing.
no, no.
We're talking 48 plus is what.
I don't think so.
Oh, wow.
See, a 48 plus panel, let's be honest, that's sort of the opposite of an 18 plus panel.
There may be like 2 people.
Well, no, there's, I'm okay, there's
There's plenty
myself,
of
there's, well, Alkali feels like it, so,
Yeah.
okay.
I feel close enough to it, so.
There you go. Hey,
There is the one you're doing tomorrow. I believe would be the closest one. It's the kind of the back in the day furry one. I
He's
think it's
prepared.
tomorrow morning.
I am?
I think so. There were 3.
Morning?
Yeah, you're
Help
right.
me, what are we doing?
If anybody has better eyesight than us.
What is with
look it
the
up.
3-point font?
Yeah,
The
that
olden
sounds
days,
about
the
right.
history of the furry fandom from the one who lived them by Uncle Kage and Kano
Yeah, there it is.
That's
From
smart.
11 a.m. to 12 p.m.
And
Oh
it's
my
right
God.
here, I believe.
Nope, this is panel number 2.
Oh,
Is
so it's
someone
the
gonna
one
film it?
behind us that we've been
Film what?
sending everyone.
The panel!
What panel?
The olden days when I really want to see it. Is someone going to film it? I'm not going to be here.
We could
Would
probably
you film it for the lady?
Where is it? It's tomorrow at 11 in the room right behind us.
In other words, just like this one, but there.
Yes.
Don't, hang on, excuse me. This is why you're officially a panelist packet?
You got one of those?
Oh, I am on that.
Well,
Oh,
Ken
I'm not
Des
gonna
said,
make
put
you
me where
film
you
it.
need me, and he
It's
ended up doing
the
21
olden
hours.
days, the
so.
history of the furry fandom.
It's
From one who lived
adorable.
them.
I learned not to do that. Pandez has said that before, and I'm like,
Yeah, I'm not going to be here tomorrow.
you will
but
learn.
It'd be interesting.
Gotten a little off topic, but I, quite frankly, don't have much to add. Other than the olden days, the history of furry fandom from one who lived. Oh my God. It's too bad we couldn't have Fred Patton here. Fred Patton is as old as the universe.
Hey, I have
There's a, we need more than
because I'm
enough.
young.
Now, what else? What else?
We have a hand raised.
Kage.
Anyway. Oh, hi. You again, just keep your hand up. Why don't you? Save yourself some time.
Okay, so this might be kind of depressing to say.
Okay, okay. If anybody can't handle it, leave now. Go on.
Okay, I think a very good reason as to why we talk about these things about, oh, why would there be furries? Oh, you know, what are the consequences of it?
Yep.
I think a big reason why we say that is because it's more depressing to say that there probably isn't a good reason to create an actual living furry. Even with intense body mods, sometimes it can be too dangerous, especially say if like you got a tail hooked up to your nervous system that could accidentally paralyze you. And there might
Or
be
get
a-
caught in a door.
and there might be a 0.1% chance of that happening, but that's still a one person for every 1,000. So it's a lot more depressing to say that there probably wouldn't be a good reason, but there probably wouldn't be the funds behind it. There probably wouldn't be the people qualified to do it. The research is in interest in the general medical community. But it's very nice to think.
I'm not ignoring you. I'm looking for a quote to kind of go along with all this. And I don't do this bullshit. I do this bullshit. So you are correct in that. That's pretty much the entire basis. This whole discussion boils down to that question. Should we? And my answer to that question is no. There's absolutely no reason for it as of today. If somebody can come up with a rational reason that makes it worth the risk, remember what I discussed at the very, very beginning. If you can find a benefit that outweighs the risk, then perhaps I will acquiesce. For example, if oh, I don't know, the climate we're changing, and there's another ice age coming in the next 3 years, and gee, if humans had fur, we might survive better. That's a possibility. As I said, the risk-benefit ratio must be there. But this particular quote, which I finally found here, is, oh, yes. Where, it's because, blah, 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 scroll. Oh no, this is the goth quote. Satan has his companions, fellow devils, to admire and encourage him, but I am solitary and detested. Yeah, go cry, emo kid, right? Yes, this is it. We were looking at this quote. There is love in me, the likes of which you have never seen. There is rage in me, the likes of which should never escape. If I am not satisfied in the one, I will indulge in the other. You create a creature and give it that sort of social atmosphere, what will you do to its psyche? Incidentally, this quote, there is love in me, the likes of which you've never seen. There is rage in me, the likes of which should never escape. I want to have that printed on the back of a lab coat. And wear it at Anthrocon. Buy me a drink and I'll tell you about the one incident I had to deal with at Anthrocon. And because it was the one incident, all of the rage got funneled into that one poor little guy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that I had a bottle of wine for you, but I gave you
Oh.
3 box.
Does that say there is rage in me, the likes of which...
And to make it worse, it's called Red Fox wine.
Was it a red wine?
Yes.
You're forgiven. I don't drink reds.
Okay.
Reds, for those of you who are not familiar with wine, red wine is very tannic. It contains tannic acid. That's what gives it what they call the astringency, that bitterness. I find that offensive. It is not pleasing to me to have that astringency on the tongue. Also, red wine will stain a white lab coat when it spills on it. Yeah, here, this is a perfect example right here. This is that Shiraz I was talking about earlier. Hell, there's been more white wine spilled on this lab. Well, probably there has been more white wine spilled on this lab coat than is in this hotel this weekend. Well, that was you.
GLSCS.
That's okay. You're not the first. You wouldn't be the last.
So what you're saying is you can't tolerate certain colors.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. It's full circle.
I am in wine race.
Well done.
Yeah.
Also, please, if you want to get me a bottle of wine, that's very, very sweet. I appreciate it. If it's a white wine, don't make it Chardonnay. Chardonnay is an abomination before God, man. If I wanted to chew on a pencil, I'd chew on a pencil. Thank you very much. But red wines, because of that tannic acid, age nicely in the bottle. White wines rot in the bottle. They do not last more than 3 years. Some argue 4 or 5, I say 3. A gentleman at an unnamed convention brought me 2 beautiful bottles of Gewürztraminer. This was, I believe, in the year 2010, and the vintage date on them was 1991.
Oh.
What was inside was opaque and had these little black specks all through it, like a reverse snow globe. And I thanked him profusely because he was all happy. I'm going to give Uncle Kage 2 bottles of wine. I was like, thank you so much. You're so sweet. I'll just take these away. I took them to security. I gave them to Renegade, and I said, do something with these. And the next day I went back, and I said, what did you do with them? He said, they're right there. They had made con badges for them and made them mascots of the convention. They were named Franz and Josef. Because they were Gewürztraminer. We're really getting off topic, but as I said, I'm totally out of stuff to say. So yes.
Well, in one of my stories, I had furries made to avoid liability lawsuits.
Now that's intriguing. How would a furry avoid a liability lawsuit?
Well, they're clearly not human, so they can't really sue.
Okay, now I see where that's going. Oh, okay. Then you start running, and can you imagine the legalities? One of the Planet of the Apes novels covered this. And in fact, we're starting to see delving into this now. You know, would a furry, a human-animal hybrid that has an IQ of 165 and can operate a vehicle, does it have constitutional rights? Yeah. They'll keep the lawyers busy for years. Yeah.
But the problem is that sure you might be able to make furries to avoid lawsuits and like keep them in really bad working conditions, but there's a
See
much
where it's
bet-
going? See where it's going? Yes, go
The
on.
much better solution is to get a robot to do it, because robots will work for free 24/7 and have no rights. And
Yep.
it's hard to say that this literal machine
Yep.
has any rights.
Until that one robot one day stops and says, hey, wait a minute.
Just program it not to.
It's called Skynet. Oh yes, program it not to. Who's going to do that for you? Microsoft? Hi, come on in.
The Animatrix might cover that.
No,
Have a coffee?
I'm out of coffee.
Do you need someone to do a run?
No, it's fine. I'll fill it myself. It's a obsessive compulsive sort of thing. Oh, in case I get hungry. Thank you very much. You know, there was we were discussing this at breakfast. There was an evangelist years ago that believed that the banana was evidence of the existence of God, because the banana is perfectly designed to fit the human hand, and it's just the right size. It's got nutrition in it. It's like it was designed by an intelligent force to be of benefit to mankind, ergo God exists. This poor shithead did not know that the banana is a genetically modified fruit, which I learned this morning is actually a member of the berry family. It's a berry. And yes, it was specifically designed by an intelligent force to be of benefit to humanity. That intelligent force was called a scientist.
Yep. Bananas may be going extinct.
That might be going extinct. No, I'm going to keep this
Because,
one.
there's a fungus that actually destroys
Ew,
the
what's that?
something on YouTube.
Yeah, they can't find any fungicides to kill
Yeah.
it.
And
I-
There was
okay.
already a banana apocalypse in the 50s.
Yes, it was.
And
The
this-
original banana.
Old
that-
bananas, they're monocrops.
I will bet you there is a fungicide, but you can't get people to accept it because it's a chemical, and we don't want to put chemicals on our bananas. It's called Xyrem.
Bananas are
It's called
pretty much
Xyrem.
all-
It's nasty, but it works. And there are certain fungi that grow on crops that collectively are called smut. I think that's funny.
Color smut.
Yes. Any other questions? Incidentally, if you ever attend a scientific lecture, you can tell when the scientist has either run out of things to say or lost his place in his notes. That's when he says, "Are there any questions at this point?" Yes.
What about robot furries?
Robot furries. Have you ever seen a little game called Five Nights at Freddy's? Just asking.
I'm friends with Scott.
Smut color, and all that's coming up are dogs.
Okay, I did not ask you to look up smut color on your phone because, be careful. Be careful of that, because when the 2016 election was being, oh, he made it. I went to have dinner at my little old mother's house, and she was saying, I was watching Hillary Clinton, and she was talking about nasty women, and she's actually, you made a website called nastywomen.com. I'm like, really? Whoa! Mom was like, it's like when you get riffed by an 81-year-old woman, you just. All right. Any other questions? We could just adjourn early if that's okay. I'll take this
No.
one. What?
You're
Was that-
here.
No, I may not adjourn, or no, there's no more questions. It's hard to tell.
Maybe you can't take the banana.
Oh yes, the man with the fuzzy arms.
What is your favorite strong wine?
That can be tied to the topic, but I'll do that in a moment. By strong wine, do you mean fortified wine or just wine in general?
In general.
Red
I don't know, it's a
Zinfandel.
topic.
I said I don't drink reds. I'll make the exception for the red Zinfandel. There is a quality of the red Zinfandel that I find difficult to resist. Namely, its 18% alcohol content. Yeah, I'll risk the lab coat for a red Zin, okay? But that is the answer to your question. There is, in fact, one of my favorites is made by Kenwood Wineries. It is grown on a patch of land that had belonged to Jack London, the man who wrote Call of the Wild. Yes, that's what I felt. And it is called a Jack London Vintage, and it has a wolf on the label. Okay, you can, well, me too. You cannot, okay, I like wine that has a furry on the label. It tastes better. It just does, I'm sorry.
Let's go to the red fox.
Yeah, but it's a red, I'm sorry. If it's, okay, Merlot, don't do, Shiraz, don't do, Cabernet, don't do, French wines, fuck it. But the red Zinfandel I will drink, and occasionally, maybe once in a terribly great while, a Rum Valley Red. That's like once every 12 years, and the last one I had was 4 years ago, so you gotta wait a while.
Or Kalpanushi.
Oh, okay, yes, Kaltamushi. Kaltamushi is shitty red wine that they added Coca-Cola to. And for some reason, it actually tastes good. It also stains a white lab coat, I think. Yes?
If you're making a hybrid or something, a real world furry or whatever, at what point do you say, okay, we can't hunt this for sport anymore? Like 10%?
What?
So you can't what?
Wait,
You gotta speak up, I'm old.
Well, if you're making like this, you're talking about real world furries. If you're making there's a chart that says like 10% or 20% furry, or at what point can you not hunt that for sport or like?
Why they can talk politics?
Wait.
What?
Like how much human is too much human?
That is an intriguing and thoroughly frightening question.
Memory of the most dangerous game?
Yes. You know? At what point can you not hunt it for sport? When it is intelligent enough to sue you for doing so.
Or shoot back.
Or intelligent enough to, get cornered, and when you're there, it says, I got friends who speak my language. Turn around. Yeah. That'd be a fun ending to a story. Somebody write that. That'd be cool.
So there's the normal version and the 18+ version.
And then there's the 48+ version. Hey, these damn kids would chase me through the woods.
48 version is just.
Them damn millennials!
Any other questions?
Sounding like virtual reality would be the best option for being
Virtual reality would be, and in fact, it would be safest. Yeah, again, harmless escapism. I'm all for it. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, what was that movie? It had Bruce Willis in it, where you basically
Surrogates.
Surrogates? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you basically buy an avatar and you go out as the avatar. I liked that movie, but there was one thing that bothered me. Where were the furries? Because if you could do that, hell, there'd be foxes, wolves, cats, you name it out there. Yeah.
So we can ask any question we want.
Within reason, let's say. That's a very dangerous answer I just gave.
Okay. How was it meeting Abraham Lincoln?
A lot of people do not realize, but Mr. Lincoln did not have the deep, commanding voice that everybody imagines. He actually had a rather nasal voice with a pretty heavy, for the time, Midwestern accent. And it just doesn't look good on a TV movie or something to have the big Abraham Lincoln get up there and say, "Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this." It's like, whoa, that's, whoa, was he standing on attack or something? Oh, that's alkali. That's right, we get it.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Lincoln also had an incredible wit. He he could have been, if he had not gone into the presidency and politics, he could have been a stand-up comic. You know, he could have prevented the war by making people laugh. When he was a senator, a junior senator from Illinois, he got into an argument on the floor of Congress with another senator who outwardly accused him of being two-faced. And Mr. Lincoln shot back, "Sir, if I was two-faced, would I be wearing this one?" He got admired. Hey, you asked, I told you.
So, underwhelming.
The thing about Mr. Lincoln was that he was more a comedian than he was a politician. He went the wrong way. There was a garden party toward the end of the Civil War. And about the time, the tide of the war had turned. We were finally starting to, you guys pay attention to history, you know that for the first 2 years of the Civil War, the Confederacy was beating the shit out of the North. And it was only around 1863 that, you know, Ulysses S. Grant came in and all of a sudden, oh crap, we're winning. There was a garden party, and they still have them, and you know, it's the garden party in Washington, the ladies come in with the big skirts that are 50 feet across. Oh, thank you so much. Ew, that's coffee.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you very much.
What did you have in there before?
Coffee. Thank you for the coffee. Anyway, where was it? Oh yes,
For
there's
God's
this
sake.
coffee garden party.
he gets some.
I love you, you're very kind. Thank you so much.
Apparently I made it wrong.
No, it's okay. It's all over. Yum, 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 yum. Yeah, coffee's good. Had this lovely garden party with one of these ladies with the giant skirts that can't fit through the door. I don't know how they fit through doors back then. She came up and she was all like, she's all proper and everything. And she went up and she said, "Mr. Lincoln, I shall have you know that General Grant drinks." And Lincoln's response, without missing a beat, was, "Madam, kindly find out what it is that Mr. Grant drinks so that I may feed it to the remainder of my generals." By the way, we're making a joke about how old I am. That's what's going on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Those are fun.
But you didn't know I studied Mr. Lincoln's life extensively. That's an in-joke in my family. We'll get to that. Oh, sorry, what does your shirt say?
I adulted today.
Ah, okay. Because it's kind of, I thought the word adultery was on there. I'm like, what the hell? You might not want to wear the sweater on top of it. Yeah. Any other questions? It's about time to go. Finally, yay. By the way, I read a story when I was a little boy about this guy who was a hat seller, where all the hats on his head and these monkeys were grabbing them. That's him, right there. That's good to see you. All right, I'm out of here. Thank you all very much.
Yeah.